a dynamic in human relationships that has persisted for centuries, one that plays out in many different ways, but often boils down to a fundamental truth. How men treat women is determined by more than just surface level attraction. It's rooted in respect, in power, in fear, and in understanding of self-worth. This treatment is shaped by both internal forces and societal structures that dictate not just how men interact with women, but how they perceive their roles in the world. But why then do some men treat certain women like queens while others are treated as mere options? The answer isn't simple. It's complex, deeply rooted in the dynamics of human nature, personal psychology, and societal expectations. Let's break this down and see what might be happening under the surface. Men who treat women with deep respect and admiration often see them as more than just a companion or partner. They see them as something rare, something that goes beyond the superficial attraction or temporary desires. For these men, women are embodiments of value that resonates deeply within their psyche. This perception is not formed by what society tells them about women or the roles women should play. It's born from an internal realization, a recognition that certain qualities like kindness, intelligence, strength, and compassion are deserving of both admiration and reverence. These men don't see women as just people to interact with or to fill a role in their lives. Instead, they see them as symbols of something profound, something irreplaceable. In a world where it's easy to view people as disposable or interchangeable, it takes a certain depth of character to elevate someone to the level of a queen. To treat a woman like a queen is to acknowledge her as a being deserving of the highest respect and honor. It's an acknowledgement that her worth is not only in the external qualities she possesses, but in the inner strength and wisdom she offers to the world. A woman who is treated with such reverence is not just valued for her appearance or the utility she provides to a man's life, but for her essence, her individuality, her dreams, her aspirations, her struggles, and her triumphs. This mindset, this elevation of a woman is a reflection of how the man views himself and his place in the world. Men who truly elevate a woman to this status often have a clear sense of their own identity. They understand that their ability to treat someone with such high regard is not about servitude or weakness. It's about strength, humility, and integrity. These men don't treat women like queens because they expect something in return. They do so because they recognize that love, respect, and admiration are not about ownership or control, but about mutual growth and acknowledgement. For some men, this elevation comes from an understanding that to love and respect a woman at such a level requires a reflection of their own self-worth. If they see themselves as someone who is valuable, who is capable of genuine love, and who is confident in their role in the world, they are more likely to treat the women they are involved with as queens. It becomes an extension of their own self-awareness and a mirror of how they believe the world should be treated. They don't view their partners as temporary distractions or fleeting pleasures. Instead, they see them as people who, through their very presence, add meaning and purpose to their lives. The act of elevating a woman in this way is also an expression of commitment. It is a recognition that a relationship is not something to be taken lightly or treated as expendable. A man who treats a woman like a queen understands that love involves sacrifices, challenges, and moments of growth. He's willing to invest time, effort, and emotional energy to nurture the relationship and honor it. This doesn't mean that the man is without flaws or imperfections. It simply means that he's willing to show up consistently and offer his best self. He views the relationship as something sacred, as something that transcends momentary desires or selfish needs. To elevate a woman to this status is also a reflection of emotional intelligence. It requires the man to be self-aware and attuned to his partner's needs. It requires him to be present, to listen, and to understand the intricacies of her emotions, thoughts, and dreams. When a man is able to treat a woman like a queen, he is often in tune with the deeper aspects of her being, the parts that are often unseen by the rest of the world. He recognizes her humanity, her vulnerabilities, and her strength. In doing so, he allows space for her to thrive, to be herself, and to feel seen and appreciated. This respect and admiration are not based on any one thing. They are not dependent on the woman's accomplishments, her appearance, or any other external validation. They are grounded in the authentic recognition of her as an individual. It's the acknowledgement that in a world that often reduces people to labels and expectations, she is a unique person whose value is immeasurable. When a man treats a woman like a queen, he does so because he sees her as something rare, something to be cherished, something that elevates not only his own life, but the world around them. It is in this recognition that the true beauty of a relationship is found, built on mutual respect, admiration, and a shared understanding of the value each person brings to the table. When men view a woman as an option rather than a priority, it typically stems from a deeper sense of detachment from the relationship itself. This detachment is not necessarily a reflection of the woman's value, but rather an indication of how the man places her within the framework of his life. Men who treat women as options often do so because they do not see them as central to their emotional world or long-term plans. These relationships, in the eyes of such men, may not carry the same weight as those they prioritize. As a result, the woman becomes one of many choices, not a singular, irreplaceable presence. This mindset is rooted in a perception of abundance. When a man doesn't view a woman as a unique or essential part of his life, the sense of scarcity is absent. There is no urgency to commit or invest in her fully because he perceives the relationship as easily replaceable. This is not necessarily a statement about the woman's intrinsic worth or potential. Instead, it's a reflection of how the man feels about his own life, his own goals, and his current emotional state. If a man is not emotionally invested in a relationship, the woman naturally shifts from being a central figure to an option among many. The lack of commitment often follows this perception. A man who sees a woman as an option tends to approach the relationship with more casualness. The connection becomes transactional, defined by moments of convenience rather than shared growth or long-term goals. His behavior often mirrors this perception. He may not give the woman the time or energy that a more serious relationship would demand. He might be less thoughtful, less engaged in her life, and more likely to take her for granted. This casual approach to relationships can also manifest in a lack of communication, inconsistency, or emotional distance. When a man is not invested in seeing the woman as a priority, he may avoid making future plans with her or fail to show up for her in meaningful ways. This behavior is often a defense mechanism for men who are either afraid of commitment or simply uninterested in it. For some, this view may arise from previous experiences where emotional investments led to disappointment or hurt. As a result, they keep women at arm's length, viewing them as temporary or replaceable. This is not necessarily a conscious choice to devalue women, but rather an unconscious reaction to protect themselves from the potential vulnerabilities of a deeper emotional bond. Additionally, the perception of abundance in relationships is a symptom of a broader cultural shift in a society that promotes instant gratification and endless options. Whether through dating apps, social media, or even fast-paced lifestyles, many people, men included, become accustomed to viewing relationships in a disposable manner. The idea of constantly being able to swap partners or move from one connection to another diminishes the sense of value that comes with treating someone as a priority. Men, influenced by these external factors, may not take the time to deeply invest in one person, but instead prefer to keep their options open. This external influence can undermine the willingness to treat a woman as someone worth sacrificing for, someone whose presence and value will shape the future. A key aspect of this perception is the level of emotional commitment involved. When a man treats a woman as an option, he is often unable or unwilling to make the sacrifices that come with deeper commitment. There's a certain fear or uncertainty that prevents him from truly stepping into a relationship where he places the woman's needs, desires, and aspirations on equal footing with his own. Instead of prioritizing her, he keeps his focus elsewhere, potentially on his career, social life, or personal pursuits, seeing them as more important in the grand scheme of things. Ultimately, when a woman is viewed as an option, it's less about her worth and more about the man's perception of her place in his life. His behavior reflects this perception, being emotionally distant, less invested, and less likely to put in the work necessary to build something long-lasting. This dynamic can create frustration and disillusionment for the woman involved, as the lack of priority and commitment feels like an indication that she is not seen as valuable enough for the kind of deep connection that leads to a meaningful relationship. It is this dissonance between the woman's expectations and the man's casual approach that often drives the divide between those who are treated as options and those who are treated as queens. How men view their own value plays a significant role in shaping how they treat others, particularly women. Men who have a strong sense of their own worth tend to approach relationships from a place of stability and self-assurance. They are not driven by insecurities or the need to prove themselves through external validation. Instead, they understand that their value does not diminish by giving respect, care, and attention to others. It is not about entitlement or domination over others, but rather about recognizing that those they choose to connect with, especially women, deserve to be treated with the same respect and consideration that they afford themselves. A man who has a healthy understanding of his own worth doesn't need to diminish the value of others to feel good about himself. His self-assurance allows him to see women as equals, deserving of love, care, and respect. When a man is secure in who he is, he doesn't feel threatened by a strong, independent independent woman. Instead, he recognizes her strength as something to admire and celebrate. He is not intimidated by her achievements or her autonomy, but rather inspired by her individuality and the unique qualities she brings to the table. In turn, he treats her with dignity and reverence, seeing her as someone worthy of being elevated in his life. This understanding of self-worth allows a man to offer his best to others without fear of losing himself in the process. Many men who treat women poorly or see them as replaceable often do so because they are insecure in their own identity. They feel threatened by the thought of someone else's needs, desires, or presence taking up space in their lives. These insecurities can lead to behaviors that undermine relationships, creating distance or causing emotional harm. However, when a man is secure in his own value, he does not fear sharing his time, energy, or resources with others. He is more willing to invest in a relationship, knowing that offering his best does not take away from who he is, but rather enriches both his life and the life of the woman he chooses to be with. This confidence and self-worth leads to a more genuine connection. Men who see their own value do not approach relationships with a sense of scarcity. They don't fear that treating someone with respect will result in their own downfall or weakness. Instead, they understand that true relationships are built on mutual respect, care, and shared values. These men are willing to put in the effort required to nurture a bond, knowing that they have enough to give without feeling depleted. The connection they build with others is not rooted in self-interest, but in a desire for genuine partnership. Furthermore, secure men are not likely to manipulate or play games in relationships. They do not need to assert power or control over others to feel validated. Their behavior reflects this confidence as they are comfortable in their own skin and do not feel the need to dominate or undermine those they care about. They offer their energy freely without expectations of receiving something in return. This sense of generosity is not born out of self-sacrifice, but out of an authentic desire to enrich the lives of those they care about. Treating women as queens in this context is not an act of selflessness that leaves a man feeling depleted. Rather, it is an acknowledgement that relationships require a balance of giving and receiving, where both partners are seen as valuable, deserving of respect, and worthy of care. When a man is secure in himself, he has the emotional capacity to treat a woman with the reverence she deserves because he does not see it as a loss or a drain on his own resources. His treatment of her is a reflection of his ability to recognize and honor her worth without the fear of being diminished or losing his own sense of value. Ultimately, the way men view their own value directly influences how they treat the people around them. A man who recognizes his worth understands that respect and love are not finite resources. He is more than capable of offering both freely and generously to those he deems worthy. And in doing so, he creates relationships built on trust, mutual admiration, and shared growth. Treating women as queens becomes not just a reflection of his respect for them, but also a natural extension of the respect he has for himself. The role of emotional maturity in how men treat women is fundamental, as it serves as the foundation for healthy, respectful, and lasting relationships. Emotional maturity is more than just the ability to control one's emotions. It is the capacity to recognize the emotions of others, understand them, and respond with empathy and consideration. An emotionally mature man doesn't treat women as options because he is fully aware that relationships are not just about casual encounters or temporary connections. They require emotional investment and commitment. He understands that true respect and love are not conditional upon surface level attributes like appearance or immediate gratification, but are rooted in emotional depth and understanding. One of the hallmarks of emotional maturity is the ability to recognize that relationships are not transactional. In other words, love, affection, and care are not just exchanged when it is convenient or when one expects something in return. A man who is emotionally mature knows that treating a woman with kindness and respect is not about seeking validation or expecting immediate rewards. It is about seeing the relationship as something that requires time, attention, and most importantly, emotional vulnerability. This type of man does not treat his partner as a mere object of affection, but as an equal, someone worthy of his trust and emotional energy. A man with emotional maturity understands that relationships are built on mutual growth. He does not view them as opportunities to extract what he can, but as partnerships in which both individuals can thrive and evolve together. His ability to invest emotionally means that he is willing to be present, to listen, and to support the woman he's with. Not out of obligation, but because he genuinely values the connection they share. This level of emotional awareness goes beyond superficial gestures of affection. It's about being attuned to each other's needs, being able to communicate openly, and creating a safe space where both partners can express themselves freely without fear of judgment. Furthermore, an emotionally mature man is not afraid of vulnerability. Vulnerability is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality, it is a powerful display of emotional strength. By allowing himself to be vulnerable, a man shows that he trusts the woman he is with enough to expose his inner world. He doesn't see this as a sign of fragility, but as an opportunity for deeper connection. When a man embraces vulnerability, he is more likely to be open about his feelings, desires, and fears, fostering a deeper sense of intimacy and emotional connection in the relationship. This emotional transparency enables the woman to feel safe and valued, knowing that she is with someone who can handle the complexities of a relationship with maturity and depth. An emotionally mature man also knows how to handle conflict in a relationship. Instead of resorting to defensive behavior or avoidance, he addresses issues with empathy and understanding. He doesn't shy away from difficult conversations, but approaches them with a calm and open mindset. He recognizes that disagreements are not signs of failure, but opportunities to grow together and learn from each other. This maturity allows him to navigate challenges without devaluing the relationship or retreating into emotional distance. His commitment to resolving conflict in a constructive manner speaks volumes about his emotional stability and his dedication to building something meaningful with the woman he's with. In relationships, emotional maturity also manifests in how a man handles his own emotional needs. He doesn't depend on his partner to fulfill all his emotional requirements. Instead, he maintains a healthy sense of self and emotional independence while being capable of supporting his partner in return. This balance ensures that neither partner feels burdened by the other's emotional expectations. Rather than relying on the woman to complete him, an emotionally mature man understands that both individuals should come to the relationship whole, offering mutual support and care. In the context of treating women as queens, emotional maturity is the cornerstone that enables a man to recognize that a woman's value goes beyond her physical appearance or temporary role in his life. He understands that she is a person with her own emotions, needs, and desires, and he treats her accordingly, not as an option, but as a priority. His emotional maturity allows him to embrace her fully with all her complexities and build a relationship based on mutual respect, vulnerability, and growth. This commitment to emotional depth is what separates men who view women as temporary options from those who treat them as cherished queens, worthy of respect, love, and dedication. Social and cultural norms play a significant role in shaping how men approach relationships and ultimately how they treat women. In today's world, where self-centeredness and instant gratification are often celebrated, many relationships have become shallow, fleeting, and transactional. In this context, it is easy for men to view women as options rather than priorities. The societal pressures that encourage the constant search for novelty and excitement often lead to a mindset where commitment is seen as unnecessary or even undesirable. This mindset, perpetuated by a culture that values independence and freedom over connection, can result in men treating women as disposable. If a man is constantly bombarded with messages about the next best thing or is encouraged to keep his options open, it becomes difficult for him to fully invest in a relationship. The culture of instant gratification, especially in the age of social media and digital dating, often makes it seem as though there are always new opportunities just around the corner. In this environment, the concept of true emotional investment and long-term commitment can seem old-fashioned or even unrealistic. A man may feel the pressure to never settle, to always be in search of something better, and this leads to relationships that are driven by convenience rather than genuine connection. Women in this context may find themselves being treated as just another option in a lineup rather than being seen for their true worth and potential as a partner. However, when a man shifts his perspective and starts to view relationships through the lens of long-term value, understanding, and commitment, the dynamics change. Men who embrace these values understand that relationships are not simply about temporary pleasure or fleeting excitement. They see relationships as opportunities to build something meaningful, lasting, and mutually beneficial. This perspective allows them to shift away from the transient, surface-level interactions that are so common in today's world and begin to appreciate the deeper, more fulfilling connections that come from genuine emotional investment. In a world that often encourages a fast-paced, disposable approach to love and relationships, men who take the time to develop emotional maturity and commit to a long-term vision are able to treat women with the respect and admiration they deserve. These men are not distracted distracted by the constant lure of something new or shiny. Instead, they focus on building something real and substantial with their partner. They understand that true value doesn't lie in the pursuit of endless options, but in the willingness to invest time, energy, and emotion into someone who is worthy of that commitment. For these men, treating a woman like a queen is not an act of indulgence, but a natural reflection of their values and understanding of what it takes to build a lasting, fulfilling relationship. Social and cultural norms often shape our perceptions of love and relationships, but men who reject the shallow expectations of modern dating are able to cultivate a mindset that values depth and authenticity. Instead of seeing women as disposable or replaceable, they see them as partners with whom they can grow, learn, and build a future. This mindset is not simply about rejecting the current trends of casual dating and instant gratification, but about understanding that true happiness and fulfillment in relationships come from emotional connection, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to building something meaningful together. In this sense, treating a woman as a queen becomes not just a personal choice, but a reflection of how a man views the world around him. He chooses to prioritize emotional depth over surface level satisfaction, commitment over convenience, and genuine connection over fleeting excitement. In a world that often encourages the opposite, this choice is a powerful act of defiance against the norms that tend to devalue the true essence of relationships. It's a recognition that relationships, when nurtured with care, respect, and commitment, can be the most valuable aspect of a person's life, something far beyond mere options or temporary distractions. Personal trauma or past experiences can have a profound impact on how men treat women, shaping their behaviors in ways that are often unconscious yet deeply ingrained. For men who have experienced betrayal, abandonment, or emotional neglect, their ability to engage in healthy, trusting relationships can be hindered by the scars left from past pain. These experiences can create a fear of vulnerability, and the trauma associated with emotional injury can lead to defensive behaviors that manifest in treating women as options rather than as treasures. This is not necessarily a reflection of the woman's value, but rather a coping mechanism developed as a way to protect oneself from further hurt. For a man who has been deeply hurt by betrayal or abandonment in the past, there may be a constant internal struggle between wanting emotional connection and fearing the vulnerability that comes with it. This internal conflict can lead him to guard his emotions carefully, preventing him from forming deep and trusting relationships. In these instances, the idea of opening up to a woman or allowing her to become central to his life feels too risky, as it threatens to reopen old wounds or lead to a similar sense of rejection. As a result, the man may unconsciously treat the woman as disposable or temporary, keeping her at arm's length rather than investing emotionally in a way that would allow the relationship to flourish. This fear of being hurt again often translates into a mindset where the man is reluctant to commit fully. If he views the relationship as an option, it is easier to avoid putting in the emotional effort that could potentially lead to disappointment or rejection. By keeping the woman as just one of many possibilities, he creates a safety net that allows him to retreat if the relationship becomes too emotionally intense or if he perceives any signs of danger. It is a defense mechanism, protecting himself from the possibility of emotional pain, but it also prevents him from engaging with the woman in a genuine and meaningful way. This mindset, however, often stems from a place of fear, not from a true reflection of the woman's worth or the potential of the relationship. On the other hand, men who have experienced healthy, loving relationships or have had positive emotional experiences in the past often approach women with a different perspective. These men are less burdened by the fear of vulnerability, and they are more likely to see relationships as opportunities for growth, love, and mutual support. They approach women with openness and emotional transparency because they know the value of deep connection. Having experienced the nurturing, supportive environment of a healthy relationship, they understand the importance of investing time and energy into building something meaningful. They treat women with respect and care, not because they fear loss, but because they know the rewards of authentic emotional connection. For these men, vulnerability is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced. They are comfortable with the idea of being open and honest, and they understand that true intimacy comes from the willingness to share one's true self without fear of judgment. Their past experiences have taught them that love and commitment are not weaknesses but strengths. They are capable of treating women as queens because they have learned to recognize and appreciate the value of a loving, trusting partnership. However, it is important to note that trauma does not always dictate future behavior. Men who have experienced betrayal, neglect, or emotional hardship relationship are capable of healing and growing, especially with the right support and self-reflection. It is possible for these men to learn to trust again and to approach future relationships with the same openness and vulnerability as those who have experienced healthier past connections. Healing from personal trauma often requires self-awareness, emotional work, and the willingness to let go of past pain. In doing so, these men can break free from the patterns that lead them to treat women as options and begin to see them for the treasures they truly are. Ultimately, personal trauma shapes behavior, but it does not define it. Men who are able to work through their emotional wounds and grow from their past experiences are more likely to approach women with the care, respect, and emotional investment they deserve. It is through this healing process that men can move beyond the defensive patterns established by past hurt and create relationships rooted in genuine connection, vulnerability, and mutual appreciation. In the end, the way men treat women is not solely determined by a woman's worth, but by how men perceive their own value, how they view relationships, and the emotional baggage they carry from their past. Treating a woman like a queen comes from a place of understanding, respect, and emotional maturity, a recognition that she is worthy of love and devotion, but it also requires a man to be secure in himself, free from the fear of vulnerability, and open to the idea of building something lasting and meaningful. When men can look beyond their fears, their past, and societal pressures, they are capable of offering women the deep, genuine connection that fosters true love and respect. It's in this space where past pain is healed, emotional maturity is embraced, and long-term value is recognized, that a man can finally see the woman beside him not as an option, but as the treasure she truly is.